But now it's time for the Great British Debate This Out, and I'm asking, is it time for the Tories to focus on policy, not personality? Tory backbench MPs are rumoured to be plotting to replace the Prime Minister again. Commons leader with Penny Mordaunt ahead of the election. Senior Tories have attempted to downplay these rumours, with Transport Secretary Mark Harper saying that the party needs to show people that Tories have a plan and can deliver it. How about delivering the plan that you're currently on at the moment? This means Tory leadership is yet again in question after we already had 4 leaders in the last 5 years. So for the Great British Debate This Out, I'm asking, is it time for the Tories to focus on policy, not personality? Joining me to discuss, former advisor to David Cameron, Philip Blond, Norman Baker, former Liberal Democrat Minister, Ben Habib, Deputy Leader of Reform UK, and Akua McCarthy, Director for Climate Media Coalition. Right, I'm going to start with you, David, Philip Blond.
Yeah, trouble is politics and personality merge. You've got to have the ideas and then convince people of it. But it's true to say the Conservatives have had the wrong policy mix, arguably since 2010. I've long argued that the move ahead was becoming pro-worker, speaking to the rampant economic and cultural insecurity for those in the bottom half of the income distribution. And they've failed to do that. They've stuck with 1980s liberalism for the home counties. And it's failed them and it's failed the country completely. And I, for one, think there's merit in changing leader, as extreme as that sounds. But the trouble is, Mordaunt doesn't recognise a break. It doesn't represent a break with what's gone on, but a continuance. We actually need a leader who will speak to the 2019 electorate. Boris Johnson had lots of ideas, but was incapable of enacting them or bringing them to fruition. And we need somebody who has the personality and the charisma to paint the big picture of what could be achieved if we had those policies in place. And I'm afraid that's what's needed.
Well, but you had that. You had Boris Johnson, and he looked like a leader. He walked and talked like a leader, but he had people who could help him do the other bit. But the British public liked him. Norman Baker.
Well, now, your question simply is it always better for governments to concentrate on policies rather than personalities? Because ultimately policies affect members of the public and personalities, by and large, don't. But, what we're seeing again is yet more infighting, yet more psychodrama from the Tory party, which I think the public at large are fed up with. And the Tories are in this bind because they don't particularly rate Rishi Sunak, and the public don't rate him. His ratings and opinion polling is really bad. But on the other hand, to change the Prime Minister yet again would look completely ludicrous. So what's going on at the moment is a battle within the Tory party, not for the election, they've written that off, but for where the Tory party will be after the election. And to that extent, personalities matter, because, say, Jeremy Hunt, if he keeps his seat, by the way, Jeremy Hunt will be very different to Kevin Badenoch. So you're right, the personalities and policies are inexorably linked, I'm afraid.
Ben Habib.
Well, I agree completely with Philip that the Conservative Party has had all the wrong policies since 2010. And as I said earlier in this programme, the opportunity Rishi Sunak had was when he took over as leader of the party. That was the time that he absolutely had to make the change in policies that would deliver for the vast majority of this country and save it from the economic Armageddon path on which it is headed. And he didn't do it. What he said was he was going to fix the economy by practicing all the same policies that got it into the mess in the first place. What they don't realise is taxes have to come down on the working and middle classes. Taxes have to come down on businesses. We need to deregulate desperately. This inexorable drive to net zero is economically emasculating the United Kingdom. And all of this needs a 180-degree turn. The government just hasn't, this Conservative Parliamentary Party and its government hasn't got the vision to do it. They can change leaders as much as they like. Ultimately, they will not be able to change policies because they don't believe in the right policies.
Akua McCarthy.
Well, I think it would be a real waste and an insult to the British people to have yet another Tory party leadership campaign. They need to have a general election and then post-general election, once they've lost power, to go off and have a proper leadership election and have a proper debate. One of the problems the Tory party has is that their original source of power, which was the Tory press, no longer backs them. The Tory press is now backing reform, and so the Tory leadership has a real problem. Do we go towards the reform policies, or do we go towards the policies most of the public in Britain wants, which is lower taxes for poor people, higher taxes for the rich, and to look after our environment and to look after climate change?
It's embarrassing, I think, frankly, that they are doing this. See, now, I would admit to being a Conservative voter the previous time. Before that, I think I voted Labour, so, you know, I will go wherever the policies suit. But I want to hear some policies. I want to see some action. Do you not think that if they perhaps focused on doing something, they'd stand a better chance, Philip, than spending their time, even though policy and personality are intrinsically linked, if they actually started to do something properly, that the British public might even consider giving them some more ground?
Well, look, it's certainly true that Starmer hasn't won the hearts of the British people. It's certainly true that the Labour lead is challengeable because the hold on British people is tenuous. They've followed a small target strategy. They've let the Conservatives commit error. And so this is where I think actually a new leader with a coherent, broad, idealistic and transformative vision, which after all is what Boris offered but was unable to deliver, would make a real difference for the Conservatives. It's about the scale of the defeat. Do they go below 100 seats? Are they 3 elections away from challenging again? Or do they go to a position from which they can recover? And in the not unlikely event that Labour also fail, because Labour are representing also a continuation of the failed past, then come again. And so I think the agenda, the argument for a new leader and a new vision is actually quite compelling, much as it would cause consternation and humour. It would offer us a real choice, which we currently don't have.
But what about us? Like the general public, Norman, they are, again, politically posturing, saying, oh, we'll put this person in front of a sinking ship. What about the policies? We're all sitting here, we need... The NHS is crumbling, everything is crumbling, and this is what the best they can do. Even in their last bit, it's like you're leaving a job, you still have to do the job.
Well, sinking ship is right. And the problem is that it doesn't matter who the leader is, but the Tory party at the moment is ungovernable. Yeah. That's the bottom line. There's no party which is in the worse state than the Tories. No leader can emerge from the Tory party in Parliament who can bring everybody together. I mean, you cannot bring together people who are basically reform UK people, along with old-fashioned, Cameronites. There's nothing in common with those people. So there's no unifying agenda they can produce. And Donagher's right. That what has to happen is you have to lose the election, and then actually lick their wounds and decide where they want to go, which is what Labour did after 2010.
Well, I mean, Donagher, he says you're right. You're both sort of liberals,
Well, I think what we're both saying is what you're saying.
I think most of us are saying the same thing.
I think we're agreeing with you, Nana. What we're actually saying is the British public should not have to go through the Tory party deciding in private, yet again, who our Prime Minister is. It's time we had a say in who the Prime Minister is. I'm tired of a small group of men and a couple of women in Parliament, in the Tory party, deciding who the next Prime Minister is. It's time we had a vote and let the people decide.
Well, we decided that and they didn't like it. And final word to you then, Ben Habib.
Well, we all know precisely which policies the Conservatives would have to adopt in order to win the next election. They could do it tomorrow. But the parliamentary party, as Norman said, is ungovernable and wouldn't support those policies. So they are toast.
They're toast. All right, well, listen, so I'm going to ask you a straight question then. Should they be changing leader before the election, yes or no? Ben Habib?
No.
Donagher McCarthy?
Definitely not.
Philip Blond?
Yes.
And Norman Baker?
No.
No. All right. Well, it's just a different person holding the reins of the ship as it goes down, isn't it? Listen, thank you so much for your thoughts. Really good to talk to you.